Let's review the exciting new data contracts feature in version 1.9. To set the stage, we're going to look at columns in a customer table here. Our normal flow is that we have metadata agents running that are refreshing this view and showing how the schema is evolving. The core idea is that the data is alive. There are always going to be changes, and we want to know when these changes are happening. This is where things can get a bit tricky on the schema side. We might catch these changes after they've happened, and we might not. Imagine I'm using this customer ID column, and this column disappears. Suddenly, my processes start to fail. As an aside, this is also why we added the announcements feature. It's a convenient way of saying, hey, next week or month or something, I'm going to deprecate this column or be doing something that you want to let people know about. This is all well and good, but we need to reach an agreement between who is creating and providing the data and who is using the data. One view could be on the schema set, another view could be on the data quality set. Now consider, if the data is alive, the schema is alive, then the metadata is also alive and evolving. So we might want to set certain ground rules on it. For example, we want to make sure this asset always has domain information, or will always have a customer ID, etc. So basically, we are taking three different views of our data: the schema side, the data quality side, and the overall metadata side that we might need to agree on between the producers and the consumers of our data. That sets us up for the data contracts here and the main goal of the feature. We have a previously defined data contract here called Customers DC. You can see we have some schemas defined, and while there are 7 columns in this table, our contract states that these 2 columns, customer ID and first name, should always be a part of this table, and that part of the test has passed. We also have some semantic rules here. Ownership is mandatory, and this test has passed. However, on the data quality side, the customer row test is not passing. So this data contract is a set of tests that must pass to satisfy the contract. This contract view gives me a quick summarization of this information and if the contract has passed or failed. So that gives you some background as well as the results of a contract, but let's see how to create one. To start, we give the contract a name, Orders Process DC. Let's give it the customer's team as an owner. Description is free-form text, so put detailed information here to help others that come later. Now we can select the schema portion of the contract here. We can select the columns that we want to ensure are present. Let's say we want everything but gift card amount because that's a calculated field and it's okay if it goes missing. Next, we can create semantic rules. This would be business semantics and documentation requirements. We give it a name first, and we specify that owners should be set. Then we give it a description. Now the rule is owners is set. Then finally, on the data quality side, this takes advantage of some of the UX improvements for adding tests. So I can select Add Test here on the right, which will open up a panel to configure the test. I can select a row count test that I have 100 rows, for example. Now I select the available test and save it as part of the contract. Now my contract has all of these features configured, so I can run it now. And it failed. Looking at the contract status, we see the schema passed, but the semantics failed because I don't have an owner. And there you have a high-level overview of the new data contract feature in version 1.9, how to configure it and how to use it. Version 1.9 includes a big redesign of the homepage. We want to make it as easy as possible for people to jump into the platform and to start getting things done. That said, getting things done means different things to different people. The actions of a lead engineer are going to be very different from a business user. Then you have the natural impulse of the technical person to want to go and explore the platform. so the flow of these different users is all going to be quite varied. So we asked ourselves the question, how do we make the platform highly usable for all the people in an organization that have all these different needs and skills? Keep them highly productive and not hunting for functions so they can find data faster, create tests faster, collaborate faster and better with the rest of the organization. This is where the concept of personas comes in and all these widgets that we have created on the landing page. We started by making the search bar the star and put it front and center. To complement that, we have our recently viewed data assets right under the search bar so we can just click and jump right back to where we were. We have also enhanced the look of the widgets and how we present them. For example, data assets. We can quickly see exactly what's happening in our organization with a simple mouse hover. And we can change the date range that applies to. So how do we customize this? We click on settings over here on the bottom left and we select personas. I can have a different user persona defined that have different customized interfaces. You see I have 2 already defined, and if you look at my profile, I have access to those here. So let's create a new persona. We click to add. We'll call this data consumer. So traditionally admins would have to add each person to a persona by hand. But we thought, how can we make this easier for the bulk of use cases? So let's create that. And we came up with the ability to create an arbitrary default user. So if we click on data consumer and we come over here to the 3-dot menu, we can now set that as the default. We could do that with any persona that we chose. That way, anyone who is not explicitly assigned a persona will inherit this one by default. This is a very powerful feature because now when I'm customizing navigation, the home page and whatnot, I'm going to ensure that users are all going to have the same experience. Now I can add specific people to other personas as required, such as data engineers, data scientists, business users, data stewards, etc. So now, as an admin, I can make sure that everyone gets the correct experience. So now let's look at how we customize that home page. Each of these other segments can be customized in a similar fashion. So we have all these widgets, and it could be a little overwhelming for this default persona. So let's go ahead and remove a few of them. These can all be moved around, resized, whatever is useful. Our generic user doesn't need a couple of these things. Now let's add a powerful new widget. Click on Add Widgets. We're going to select this Curated Assets. We'll apply that. Now within a curated asset, we essentially bookmark certain search filters. So let's give this a name, an asset type. This will be a table. And we're going to make it a database schema that we're looking at. The operator is, and the value, we can select a schema. We'll just select account here, and we see there's 5 assets. So let's save that. And now we see these important assets have been added to our panel. So let's put that up here next to our other data assets. Let's take a look at another interesting widget, and that is domains. And we'll add that. We see it down here. This provides a really convenient method to quickly see how many assets are in each domain. So let's save that. Now let's see what that looks like. We'll go back to the home screen. I'm currently this data steward, and I've set up this biz user previously. And we see our home page has changed dramatically. We only have a couple of items here. These are oversized. We've reduced the menu options here on the left and created a completely different experience. While this is a simple example, it should whet your appetite for what is possible. Version 1.9 introduces a new enhanced UX for data quality tests. In previous releases, a data quality test was linked to a table. This required that you navigate to a table, click on Data Observability, and then click on Add Test. This would then take me to a different page that was not only about creating the test, but scheduling it. So we not only had this concept of the data quality test, but also the concept of the test suite, which is basically the execution unit. So we had all of these different steps that you had to go to from the table to data observability. Then you had to add the test, which jumped to another screen to create and schedule the test. What we found is most users aren't concerned about what a test suite is, they just want to make sure the test is running. So we've streamlined this process, removed a chunk of navigation, and made it easier to create and schedule a test. So at both the column and table level, I can come here and specify, for example, a test for the table that my row count should be equal to 100. Now, as you can see, the pipeline creation is right here. Every test must be linked to a pipeline. This table doesn't have a pipeline yet, so we need to create one. So we can set that up to run on demand. We could give it a name, but let's just go ahead and create that. Now, if I go and try to add another test, you see there's no prompt to configure a pipeline, as that now already exists. Another part is that we highlight this custom query. Now we can easily add a custom SQL test. This feature has long been available, but the process to get to it wasn't as obvious. So this function has been simplified and streamlined. Now another part of this is the data quality panel. This gave you all the observability, but counterintuitively did not allow you to create a test. Now you can create it directly from the data observability screen. The only difference is you have to select a table to create it. And finally, we've improved the look and feel of these dashboards, modernized and unified the look with the rest of the UI/UX improvements. And that's a quick look on the enhanced flow for data quality tests in version 1.9. Version 1.9 also introduces multi-domain support and data asset rules. When approaching the single domain versus multi-domain configuration, we were following the data mesh approach, which tries to resolve the siloed method used in many organizations, with a single team providing data, an approach that doesn't scale well. Data mesh defines data products that are curated and maintained by a domain, but strictly following this approach works better in theory than in practice. What we've done is added these concepts with multi-domain support. Let's take a look. Starting at the homepage, settings, preferences, and data asset rules. What we have here are a set of data asset rules that we are providing out of the box. These can be enabled or disabled. But the powerful aspect here is that these rules are enforced across the entire platform. These data asset rules help you manage metadata validation at the platform level. If an asset doesn't follow a group, you won't be able to make any changes to it unless you fix the validation first. So what does that look like? Let's set multiple domains is not allowed. Now let's go take a look at the table and see what happens if I try to add another domain here. Finance, update, and boom. Multiple domains are not allowed. Validation failed. By default, we only allow entities to be assigned to a single domain, except for users and teams. So this entity does not satisfy the rule. Now, if I go and disable the rule and try to perform the same function, add a domain, update, this works successfully. Now let's disable it again and try something different. So we'll toggle that. We'll come back. Now we have two domains defined here. So what's going to happen if we try to, say, edit the description? We'll add a line. And I'm not allowed to do it because this asset is now breaking the rule. So I need to fix this domain so that it is compliant with the rules by removing one of the domains. We'll update that. Now when I go to change the description, it works. So we've made this data asset compliant by removing the second domain. So that's a little example, but there are other rules that have been included in this update. This should give you enough background to use this exciting new feature. In the 1.9 release, we are bringing a new component in the Glossary UI that will help users understand the workflow progress, failures, and task creation. We start by clicking on Govern and Glossary. We want to add a new glossary, give it a name, e-commerce. We give it a description, custom e-commerce glossary terms. We want to add reviewers, and we can select from predefined team in this case customer. You'll note that it displays here. Click Save. Now we want to add a term to this glossary. We click Add Term. We'll call this credit card. We'll give it a description. It's a credit card term. And we'll just click Save. It is now in a draft state, and we can see the progress of what needs to happen. Now we can see it has moved to a review state. We look at this, and we can see the different steps that have gone on in the workflow history. This is part of the enhancement. Now let's click on the term. Note that this is only going to happen with newly created terms and not for previously existing glossary terms. So if we go over to the activity feed and tasks, so let's see what's happened here. We have glossary term created or updated. Term has reviewers. Term updated by is a rechecked if the glossary term is ready to be reviewed, and set the status to in review. And we created a user approval task. This all happened automatically. And by being able to look at this, we see exactly what's been going on and what's left to do. Now let's take a look at the activity feed over here. Let's look at the tasks, and we can see the approval task is required still, but I don't have permission to do it. I'm not a reviewer. And there we have it. With our new glossary term workflows, you're able to see exactly where you are in the process and expedite any changes that might need to be happening or approvals that might be needed. Come and try it for yourself.